Okay, this is off of Route 9. And Route 9 changes into Route 202 down toward Hillsboro. So I stopped here to read this sign and take a video of this stone arch bridge here. And the stone arch bridge, it seems, is used as an icon in the town of Hillsboro. Quite possibly this is the only good thing that remains in Hillsboro. So you could see how they constructed it using stones to create an arc. And they have what's called a keystone, which is they build up the arc on both sides, and then you got to hammer in the stone that keeps that row of rocks in place. I believe that is called a keystone. So I do a little bit of stone work, so seeing stuff like that always impresses me. So I thought that I would include this in this investigation. And once again, that is Route 9. To the left is Keene, and going the other way is Hillsboro. Now going on Route 9 toward Hillsboro, you could see that they have the windmill energy plant. From what I could see, about 4 of those things. There are like 4 or 5 of them that I could see. And what I noticed was that in many of these areas that I call military controlled regions, they are big on having alternative energy, like windmills or solar panels. They got the windmills up in Hebron, and they either have solar panels or windmill in Townsend, Massachusetts. So alternative energy is a big thing in military controlled regions. All right, a little farther down on Route 9, I believe on the right, is a road called Breezy Point Road. They have a couple of signs. KW Metropolitan Home for Sale. And then they have a sign for seasonaldocks.com. So possibly somebody that works for Seasonal Docks was employed to install the docks down on Breezy Point Road, because it is a lake community. And it appears they have condos down there and possibly 2 family houses. A big selling point to these houses would be that they have lake access. On the right is a parking lot for the boats, where the people there could store their boats for the winter. But coming up on the right are a group of houses, and they're all built the same. And there is black mold growing on the side of these buildings. And besides all the mold on the outside of the house and probably on the inside of the houses as well, I bet you it looks okay on the inside. I bet you they have new bathrooms and kitchens and cabinets and rugs, and everything looks in tip-top shape on the inside, with the exception of the mold growing all over the buildings in this area. So if you were not familiar with my videos, you want to look at mold utilized as a bioweapon. Mold is used by the U.S. military as a soft kill program. When people get this on their house, they do not know what to make of it. They might think it's dirt. They might think it's like algae coming off the gutter. And it gets into the windows and gets inside the house. The military usually places it around the windows of the house, and it gets all over the house. And what it does is it weakens the target. It attacks their respiratory system and their nervous system, and then makes them very susceptible to mind control. And their whole point is to weaken, destabilize, and then attack anybody they'll move into the area. So they have these houses that look like they're built like projects, in that a construction company built this as a housing complex. And then the military puts black mold on the windows and on the outside of the house, because they don't want it apparent when somebody first moves in. And then it will slowly grow after the family moves in. and the mold ends up getting all over the entire building, and it attacks and it weakens them. It attacks their nervous system. It attacks their respiratory system and makes it so that they become very weak and susceptible to mind control, because the whole point is to move outsiders in, place them under mind control, attack them, and kill them. And they make a lot of money doing this. This is how the military plans on wiping out the middle class. So these houses right by the lake will probably be very appealing to any family that wants to get a house out in the country right by a lake, so they can also buy a small boat so the kids will have something to do over the summer. And they'll fall victim to the people that control the town of Hillsborough. So on the left, that looks like condo units. You could see the lake in the front and a driveway leading down to the lake where people could back their trailers up and put their boats in the water. These look like condo units, and I noticed very apparently growing on the side of this building was black mold. And again, before it turns black, it starts off as green in color and then gets darker. So for some reason, they have a bunch of what appears to be new houses. They look like they've been built rather recently by the same construction company. And for some reason, they have mold growing all over the outside of these buildings. All right, I'm turning around on Route 9, and I'm turning back into this parking lot that I saw from the road. And there was something with the sign on the right, and it looked like hiking trails, but it turned out to be a network of trails used for snowmobiles and quads. So I wanted to drive around the parking lot and see what this may have been used for. On the right looks like a foundation to a building. It looks like something was here and then has been removed. And then there is what appeared to me as a sidewalk up on the right. It's a very thin driveway, and it is not marked, with the exception of a little tiny stop sign that you could barely see. So I did not understand what that was. So I decided to park the car and go up that sidewalk. So as you can see, there is this small stop sign, and then there is a wooden sign posted here with nothing on it. And there is also a blue ribbon kind of marking what appeared to be a sidewalk. So I walked to the top of it and was kind of surprised to see a house up there. And it did not look like a regular house. It looks like something like a maintenance building. There is a porch wrapped from the side to the back of the building. And on it was an umbrella that looked like something from a sports bar. So it kind of looks like a bar with this weird umbrella here. I know you can't make it out now, but I think it advertised like a beer or maybe a football team. But it looked like something out of a sports bar. So you can see the door, and the lower floor is a solid concrete wall. and it appears to have a planter that they have later built a porch on top of. Then underneath the porch were 3 snowboards leaning on the posts, and there is also something behind them that I cannot make out. It almost looks like a black cylinder. It looks like it's on the ground and goes right up to the roof of the porch. So this is a very ugly building, and it is not marked with any address. There's no mailbox out in front of the driveway. It's basically a hidden house at the end of a very narrow driveway that looks like a sidewalk off of a parking lot. So whoever's living in there has a big dumpster out front, and they have garbage thrown around their driveway. So once again, this is another odd thing in Hillsboro. So it looks like maybe it had been used at some point as a town office or a maintenance building. You notice that the front yard is basically a parking lot. It looks like it's been constructed to serve as a maintenance building where people would pull up in front of it. So quite possibly this was a highway department building or a town building. Something involved in maintenance for the town, but now looks like a private owned building with snowboards leaning against these posts with a picnic table and an umbrella that looks like something out of a sports bar without an address or sign in front off of this weird parking lot. So at that point, I went to the other side of the parking lot, and that is a entryway to a network of trails used for snowmobiles and quads, and they call it night riders. So that looks like something like a sign out of an amusement park, more than a network of trails for the people in this area. The sign looks a little creepy. So there are a few maps, and one says Hillsboro Night Riders Trail Map. So it looks like these trails cover a lot of ground. And then there is 2 orange signs that say trail information. And it looks like it's been written by somebody who's very old. And they are giving you directions to the Corner Store Food, Livingston's Arctic Cat, Alberto's Restaurant, Harris Store. And I looked it up. In Washington, there is a Highland Lake. And this person who may be very old or insane has written Heightland Lake, Mini Marna, Gas Food. So it looks like he or she has misspelled a lot of words and has handwriting that suggests mild mental retardation. So I did not know what Night Riders was. So I looked it up on the internet. And Night Riders is a snowmobile club. So they have a whole network of trails named after them. And they supposedly maintain these trails.